Hello YouTube. So I am making a video. I wanted to announce that at the end of some of my videos I'm going to give a word of thought. Not necessarily advice, but just a thought, because I have so many things I feel are important to say to you guys, but they don't necessarily need an entire video to say them. And so I have like all of these things written down to make whole videos on, or videos that are like clips saved to edit into videos that just don't fit anywhere and they don't make sense, and I have them saved into my editor that has just a bunch of clips set together that make up hours of material that make no sense to edit anywhere. So I don't even want to put more material in there, so I don't end up uploading anything to edit, which makes no sense, and it's all just unedited vlogs, and it's not the image I want to do, and it's not what you guys deserve. So yes, I want to do this personal, everything that I feel, and keep this up too, but I also want to be able to show you guys throughout the day and not just one sit down talk thought type thing. I want to have my thoughts through the day that I can piece together, and right now I just have that space really saved for, like I said, those little things that I want to make a whole video about, and so many of them are not able to do that right now because it's just they don't work together. So I want to have a space for those things that I feel are really important, where I can add them in and not have to figure out a whole important way to link a couple of those things together where it makes sense cohesively, because that's what I've been really like focusing hard to try to figure out, and it's not worked at all. So I'm hoping this is going to be a really good way to do it. It just should be. So I hope you guys are having a beautiful day. It's sunny, it's bright, it's warm out, but not too warm. I'm very pale, so I don't tan after. I just burn and peel and burn again. So I appreciate when it's not too hot out, but it's nice out today, and it has a little bit of shade here and there, so that's nice. But I hope you guys get to enjoy the sun at least. I am enjoying the day. I'm working a lot, but I enjoy that as well, and the kids are great, and the animals are wonderful. I can't wait to get some more animal videos out and just really be able to share that with you too. I hope you guys have a happy 4th of July. I should have another video up before then. If not, I hope you guys do. And without further ado, let's just get into this video. So I wanted to first get into the obvious, that I don't approve of anything that condones abuse or hurt or anything at all like that, because I've gone through a lot of horrible stuff in my life. I would never want someone to not believe me, because it's very hard to speak up on these horrible topics, and the people who do bad things to people are awful. That being said, and I also hate when people joke and make light of these horrible situations, because it's really bad to go through. I don't like anybody who makes light of trauma and makes light of these things. They're not something to joke about. That being said, these situations that Shane Dawson joked about at the time were the cool thing to joke about. They were the thing that was shocking and the kind of humor that was popular then. And the thing I wanted to bring up that I don't hear anyone bringing up is, for me personally, I know in the time a lot of people used humor as a way to control as a way to like release themselves. So is truth behind, there was something bad there, or there was temptation there, or there was more to analyze, but his way of not reacting and not doing something was letting it out. I don't think Shane is a pedophile. I don't think that there is something he wanted to do, but I think his insecurities, I think he let them out by making those kinds of jokes. And I think that there's a really big distinction between the people who do things like they did to me, where I've got horrible PTSD now, and I will never be the same emotionally ever again. I can't trust the same. I can't love the same. I can't think the same. I can't work the same. I can't be a mom the same. I can't do anything the same. My life's different, and it's not ruined, but it is in a sense. Those people are cruel and they should be canceled, but somebody who made jokes that are sick and wrong should be accountable. They shouldn't be canceled. They should not be, because that's ridiculous. And I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, but he didn't kill somebody. He didn't R-word somebody or essay somebody. He did a lot of things that are wrong. He should be accountable for them. But he's been doing a lot of good lately. I think things he does that are bad, he needs to own up to, and if he shows growth and change, he's a funny guy who I really enjoyed his content, and I think he does make a lot of people happy. And he changed a lot of lives. And you know what? There's a lot of people who watched that humor and found it funny, and whether people want to admit it or not, everybody was laughing along. There was a lot of people that were coming up to Shane and talking about how he changed their lives as a kid, even if they didn't realize what they were watching. He could have not realized what he was saying exactly. And people want to say that, well, he was in his 20s. He was very immature. He didn't have sex until he was in his, young 20s, when many of us start in our teens, myself, young teens, and even with women sooner than that for me, which isn't something to be proud of, but it's true. I mean, he was very stunted emotionally. He got very attached to people, very strong. He had a very traumatic childhood in many ways, and was very emotionally stunted with his weight and with lack of experience in life. He was allowed to be sheltered by his mom. I mean, it was a situation where he didn't have a lot of growth, and so he learned things by talking to a camera. So he made all of his mistakes publicly. None of them were behind closed doors or with a lot of relationships. His relationships played out in front of us. So what I'm saying is, he's somebody who all those little personal in-class jokes were pretty much played out on a camera, and we watched them. Now, I have never ever found it funny to joke about stuff like that. I did find some of his content funny, but I don't find the things about essay funny because of my life. However, I mean, I did think some of his more crude stuff was funny. I didn't think his movie was funny. I don't find jokes about fecal matter funny. I don't like that kind of shock humor. But I remember growing up, I remember especially in like the 90s, the late 90s, I remember it being very funny to joke about, even like mid-late 90s. I remember people joking all the time about literally cooking babies, and that was like a very popular joke. I hated that, but like it was popular, and that's what people joked about. That was the normal thing, and I'm talking about like little kids joking about it. It was just normal, and that's what people joked about. It's gotten very PC lately, which is good, because people care and people actually stand up for human rights and do the right thing. And I think that's good, because it's not as cruel of a world. Yes, it's disgusting out there still, but there's rights for people. But it was very different back then. It was very different, and it doesn't make it right, but that was what people joked about. That's how people were. I mean, it really was, and it was not the same. And for people to be like, well, that was super recently. Yeah, but it was super recently that, the movies Jackass were popular, and they joked about some of the most vile stuff in the world. I mean, some of the most repulsive stuff and content, and they're very hugely popular. think about South Park, think about Family Guy has incest and bestiality, think about this stuff. I mean, it's just the pornography industry. There's so many things you could go on and on about that I've just myriads of things that are so much worse. And something I specifically wanted to talk about was the thing that is a tricky subject. I had a friend, this is about Trevor Moran and some of the jokes he made with him. I found that to be the most offensive thing he did. And I personally had a friend that she was at a stable with me, and she for years would for free ride my horses. The only thing she paid for was very briefly for me to train one of her horses, and when she stopped paying and stopped coming out and doing her part in it, then it was a big problem and it was a mess. But other than that, I helped train her horses, I helped her with everything. She was like a daughter to me, and she was younger than me about, I think, 5 or 6 years, but it was at a point obviously where she was 10, I think, when we met, and I was 15 or 16, and then it went on, obviously. So there was crucial points where there were big age differences, and I had a very hard time with some personal heavy issues, and she was mad at me when she was in a relationship and older and had a baby and was like, why didn't you tell me stuff? And I was like, well, you were a kid, you were too much younger. And she's like, 5 years isn't a big difference. It's like, well, not now, but then it was. And she refused to see it, and we're not friends now. And I felt like I wasted a lot of my life on her, because there were times where I was exhausted. I would work 2 jobs and come and spend hours on end just for free teaching her endless things about horses, about care, about everything you could imagine. I went with her to look for horses for sale, driving hours and hours in a car with her and her dad. I mean, I did everything with her just to be there for her. And because I didn't tell her a couple of very personal, horrible details about my life that you should never tell a child, like a 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old kid. And I ended up telling her when she was older, when I trusted to tell her, and then she shit on me about it. But even then, she was still young. She wasn't even old enough to, like, legally drink in a bar. But I was the one in the wrong, because I should have told the child. She was mature for her age. She could handle it. And it's crazy. And I helped her with her relationship, everything. So I feel like, my point to this is, I feel like, and it was, I apologize not for the rant. My point is, you try to appease people, and in my situation I held firm. And yes, we had conversations we should not have had. We absolutely did, and I absolutely tried to be there. I tried to be like a mom for her, because she had her parents going through a divorce, and they got back together, and they split up again. They drug her through the mud. I felt terrible, and she was someone I considered a very good, like, little sister or daughter. And then when she was older, I was a very good friend. I really did, and I still have a lot of love for her. I still cared about her too. When I found a horse that we both cared about very much, way after we separated up in life, I sent her fiance the pictures of the horse to let her know it was safe and doing semi-okay. But that aside, and I'm not even saying I was perfect in every situation, and not saying she was. There are boundaries I felt very important not to cross, because I didn't want to sit there and ruin a kid's life by putting images of life in her head, or risking a damaged kid getting into a bad world. And I felt like I made the right choice. And I feel like Shane didn't, by a lot of the issues that he made. He definitely did not make a lot of good choices by making the jokes he did with Trevor, by being sensual towards him, by everything else, but by allowing him into his life in that way, by being so flirty and whatever. I thought that was very inappropriate. But it's also, he was someone around, Trevor was someone around a lot of older kids like JC and Kian and the whole group, he was kind of the young one, if I'm recalling right. So it's kind of hard not to see him as older when he's around all these older boys. And also, I think that's a time where Shane was really contemplating coming out or not and feeling his own sensuality. And he might have related a lot to Trevor, who is so openly himself. And like he used to say that he came out, but he was in a clear closet always, and like everyone could see him. I feel like Shane might have related to that and then like not judge the situation well. So what I'm saying is I don't think he did anything right in his jokes, and I don't think we should forgive him, and I don't think it should be let go of. But I think we should see how he handles the situation. If he really is sorry and he changes, I don't think that he is this evil being who should never be forgiven. I think that he was super, super immature and made some really stupid choices. But I think that all the things that we saw that we liked in him, that got him that 20 million followers and counting, and all the cool stuff he did, and the documentaries, and the funny humor we loved, I think those are all really redeeming factors that are still there. But I want to get way more in depth into this, but I don't want to blabber on, so I'm going to do a part 2. And I understand I'm going to get a lot of dislikes for this, and I think that it's unforgivable in many aspects to joke about a child being sexy, and that's gross and it's wrong. But I think that it's unforgivable to joke about a kid being cooked and kids were doing it. I think that he just really needs to realize how gross it was and give a very in-depth and sincere apology and show his work towards bettering himself after the situation, because otherwise then it isn't forgivable. But I think that if he really does own up to this and come out showing that he's changed for good, that it shouldn't be as punishable as something like somebody who really did commit some crimes, like a lot of these people have been, unfortunately, lately, which is so sad for the victims. And something I wanted to say, just a very quick note and point here, is just the thought of the day. A lot of people don't point out that a lot of people, when they get into a relationship with someone, are both very happy and stable and they do great. But something that I've noticed a lot lately is that people will meet someone, they like them, and they'll both have interests and things that they do. And then someone, let's say they have a job that they do, or a car they have, not a car, a job they do, or something they do that they like a hobby, like they're in a band, they have a job, I don't know, they go painting, they go hunting, something. And then they come over, they hang out with you a lot, and you notice they're not going and doing that. So you say, why aren't you going and hanging out with your friend when you go hunting? And they say, oh, well, I don't have to go to my job today. I called in, but it was okay because I'm really in good with the manager, and they understood. Or, oh, I decided not to go hunting. It's not that big of a deal. I didn't want to go anyway. Bad time of year. They'll make little excuses, or they'll say stuff along the lines of, oh, well, we're getting to know each other. I'm really excited to get to know you. You're more important, and the boss and I are super close. He's super excited for us. They make you feel, one, really secure that they not only did not have to be there, it was secure and safe and sound not to be there, that there's no consequence to them not being in that situation. They didn't have to be at work or at their hunting gig or at their band gig or painting or whatever it was. They did not have to be there. They didn't have to get it to their job. There was someone to replace them, whatever. But they also make you feel like the time with you is more valuable, and that's what they wanted to do and they're excited to do, and that was their choice, and 100% their choice, and that's what they wanted to do. And then you feel bad. You're like, oh my God, no, don't do that. And so then you feel guilty that they're giving something up for you, and they're, oh, absolutely not. So then not only do you feel guilty, then you feel like, wow, this guy's amazing, or this girl, they're giving up something for me, and then you feel like they're the best thing ever. And they'll do that, and then later down the line, they use that as a manipulation tactic to guilt trip you. So what they do is they do that, and then it really wasn't okay. So let's say they missed hunting, and it was really important for, let's say, a team hunting sport like fox hunting, and they lost a tournament, or they had to go to band practice and they didn't show up for a gig and they got in really trouble like really big trouble for it, and they couldn't play then, so they missed out on a lot of money, and he got thrown out of the band, or he got fired. And then it's, you got me fired because I was hanging out with you. I got fired. You got me fired that I was hanging out with you. That's what you meant to me. I'd rather be with you than have a job. So now it's it's your fault I don't have a job. So now you have to let me stay with you, or you have to figure it out. You owe me because I did it for you. And it's a way that they use you. That's a way that they get in and break you down. It's a way that an abuser gets into you and gets into your head, because now it's like, oh my God, and they normally don't word it so blunt. They normally will say something like, I've always been fine. My boss has been my best friend, but now, I thought I was going to take over the whole company. They seemed so excited for me, and I got there and I lost my job just because I'd never miss work, and they said it was totally fine. I don't know what happened. I just wanted to spend some time with you. What are you going to do? Like, I lost my job just because I was seeing you. Or I can't believe the band kicked me out, all over, all when they said they had someone to play for me. I just wanted to spend time with you. And then it'll show once you say, oh, well, say they lost their job, well, you can stay here for a little bit, or you can work with me, whatever it may be. Then all of a sudden you start to see their anger. You start to see that different side of them. Then it's whatever it may be that they want to use you for, whether it's money, a place to stay, or in my situation, it was a place to stay, money, and a place to stay, money, sorry about that, and physically abusing me, and just mentally and physically, it was torturous. So please, I know it seems little, I know it seems silly, I know it seems stupid, but notice that. If it starts seeming like they're giving up things for you, they shouldn't. I mean, you should compromise for people. Your time should be very important, but it shouldn't be, if you have literal responsibilities like going to work, go to work. See me on the weekend. See me after work. And then leave for work in the morning and come back after. Be an adult. Like, I'm not somebody, I shouldn't be somebody interfering with that. Because then I obviously don't care about you, and you don't obviously care enough to support me back or want to be with someone and support them. To just be reasonable. It's sad that it's not normally genuine and that you have to think about things that way, but it's just true. And I just wanted to warn people, because I've seen it happen to so many I care about, and it's happened to me. And I don't know how else to word it or put it in somewhere. And before I go, I am going to make a part 2 about Shane. I want to state again, I do feel that a lot of what he did is wrong, and most everything he said was wrong, but I really do feel that back then shock humor was really big. Go look up some of the comedians, even Robin Williams, someone cherished, did a lot of really bad shock humor. Lisa Lampanelli, who I did find hilarious back then, just by the way she talked. Snoop Dogg, anybody. They did do a lot of shock humor, and it was the time back then. And he was following in the footsteps of those people, very much so, and he was also trying to fit in, and he was very behind age-wise. He was coming at it like a 16-year-old. So just please, don't forgive him. Don't be ignorant to what he's doing, because you guys aren't. But don't put him in the same category as Drake Bell and all of these guys who are doing things that are way worse, and being accused of things that are way worse, and actually did things that are way worse, because it's not the same. It's not the same to make jokes, even though it's terrible. It's not the same. Honestly, I think that people like Katie Morton, who literally played dumb in front of Eugenia Cooney, did something way worse, because she's supposed to be this wonderful counselor and therapist, whatever the hell, of YouTube, but she literally played dumb to everything in front of Eugenia Cooney about what happened with her friends and the whole entire thing, and then she literally was a part of it, giving advice. I think she's a snaky person, and I don't like anything of how she handles anything or any of her ethics. And it makes me distrust people, knowing that there's a person like her that literally is able to be degreed and out there in any aspect at all, especially something like relationships, which is scary. So if there's someone who should be distrusted, it's something like that. Like, that is deplorable. I think that the good that Shane did for a lot of people, including myself, shouldn't be just overlooked. I think that, again, he needs to be accountable, but it shouldn't be as accountable as somebody who did these actions, and we should see how he plays this out. We should not write it off. We should listen and then watch the aftermath. If he's able to be this amazing director type person here on out and then doesn't do any of that stuff again, then maybe he learned and he didn't actually touch anyone, he didn't actually hurt anybody, he didn't actually do anything other than make jokes. Yes, he was a shitty friend a lot of times. Yes, he did some stuff that was very, not great. But if he can learn from that and move on, we've all been shitty friends at some point. We've all not been there enough at some point. I try really hard to be a good friend, but I have PTSD, and a lot of times I need to check out for a couple days at a time, and I can't really fully be there. It's hard. So sometimes we need to be a little more, not forgiving, but open to hearing and seeing what happens in the future. I love you guys so much, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate you guys, especially now, because it's been a really long, bad few weeks. We had a rescue snake that was sent to us that the guy actually ended up, I'm gonna cry. I don't wanna cry. Hold on. The guy who had him, ended up throttling, choking the snake, because he was mad at it because she wasn't eating right. So the snake suffered some very bad injuries, and we tried really hard to get her to the vet, get her help, but she didn't make it. So it just really shook me up a lot. In between that and losing my friend recently, it just really hit me. So I just want to talk to you guys and say something about being more forgiving or anything. So sorry if this was really out of nowhere, but I love you guys. You guys are really my peace in a sense and my place to talk. So I appreciate you guys, and I love you.